I kept the last BK check I ever got that bounced. The checks just stopped coming all together, and I just drove for free the rest of the year. And I literally put the two checks next to each other, and how much shit was in between that check, the one that bounced and never cashed, to the one that came from Rick Hendrick. Like, there's a lot of stuff to be said about that. The space in between those two checks, the dates in between those two checks.
Welcome back to the latest episode of Out of the Groove Power Hour presented by Circle B Diecast. My name is Eric Estep. I am joined as always by NASCAR driver Brennan Poole. Brennan, at the beginning of this show, I used to say Xfinity Series driver, but now you're running Cup. You've been in trucks this year. You're doing it all, double duty at Nashville this past weekend. How you doing, Brennan? Good to see you.
I'm doing good. It was my first Cup race doing, 687, could have been more, could have been less shifts, and at an oval. So that was interesting. But yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was a hot weekend, but it was a pretty solid weekend. Top 20 in the Xfinity car. We'll take it. We've had a little difficult go of things after coming back from the West Coast, so it was good to get that rolling. Hopefully some more momentum put on our side headed into Chicago street course. But and then the Cup race, everything was pretty good, smooth, solid day. I think we wish we would have had a little bit more pace. There were moments in the race where we showed really good speed, ran really good lap times, but it was my first weekend really at Nashville running. My first race ever ran there was Saturday, and it was my fourth time in the Cup car, but this is like the second full race I've ever completed. So just learned a lot of stuff, and continue to log a notebook on the Cup car and continue to get better. And I felt like I did that. I sped on pit road on the last green flag stop and probably gave up a couple of spots, but I had a good time. I raced the heck out of the 22 and the 17 and some cars like that. I passed the 14 Briscoe, which I know they've been struggling this year, and the 41 as well. But it just feels good to be out there and racing amongst those guys and taking it all in and learning. And so I enjoyed it. I think all in all it was a really good weekend for me.
The cars both look great. You had the Mac Door Systems colors. Seeing those on a Cup car, I think that was the first time, right? That looked cool. That was sick.
Yeah, awesome. Everyone was talking about that paint scheme. Shout out Ryan Daly Designs. He designed it.
Nice.
He's done a lot of stuff for me over the years, and he just like crushed it, and everybody loved the paint scheme. People were like, "This is the best one of the year," and I was like, "Well, we'll see. There's still a lot of the year left to go." But it was a really, really good paint scheme, and of course we had all the Mac Doors family there, and that was a lot of fun. There was like 50 guests or something, so it was like it was a packed house, and it's a lot of fun when you have that many people there to pull for you, cheer you on, and all that kind of stuff. And so I enjoyed that. They had one of those little suites that's like behind the pit road, so that was cool. I got to go there and hang out and watch the truck race.
That's cool.
On Friday night, so I enjoyed that and ate some food with everybody and got to live up the sweet life for at least the truck race. So that was a lot of fun, and then went to work the next 2 days.
Dang, I can only imagine how much you had to sweat this weekend. It was toasty,
dude,
and humid. I'm not used to that kind of humidity up in Tennessee. That was crazy.
It was so hot that like literally the next day, like on Monday when I was driving home, like my face was like dry. Like that's how much fluid I had lost, I guess. But
it was funny.
Yeah,
I bumped into you on pit road right before the race, the Cup race, I should say. And I didn't say anything to you then, but I noticed maybe you had just put like a towel on, but you had like a bead of sweat running down your head right here. And I remember thinking in the back of my head, like, damn, he's already like, he's
sweating.
He's hot, and it hasn't even gotten in the car yet. So I was a little worried about you, but I'm glad you made it.
It was, man. Well, I gotta tell you, Saturday was worse than Sunday for me. And I know there are a lot of other drivers that were feeling it, but it was just like the time of the race. It's like right in the hottest point of the day. And like, it is hot. Like, at least in the Cup car, like, yes, it was very hot through the first stage, and
the sun went down.
Was sweating it out, but then the sun went down. Yeah, and then really from that point on, like the rest of the race, like I really wasn't that hot. The guys kept giving me some ice and stuff like that, and I don't run the Cool Shirt or anything. I hear it's amazing. I would probably like to get one of those things. They're a little expensive, but so I just like throw ice like in my suit, like right on my chest, and then and then I had a fan that was like blowing right at me. So, and I had a fan on my feet. I had a back fan, helmet fan. Like the Cup car is really, really nice for all that type of stuff. But you're also running twice the distance, so
So it
it's
offsets.
much more challenging. Yeah. By
Yeah.
the end of it, you're still tired and you're still hot, but
Oof.
shoot, that's why we ride bikes and run and
Yeah.
work out. So it was okay.
Who says NASCAR drivers aren't athletes?
A lot of people that don't know anything, Eric.
I know it's ridiculous. I'm not a NASCAR driver. I don't know why I'm getting offended, but yeah, I feel for you guys. People just don't understand. They don't understand the harsh truth. I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, but Circle B Diecast, of course, is our presenting sponsor. And as always, they have a special deal for fans of the show. You can use code OOTG, stands for Out of the Groove, OOTG for free shipping on orders over $30. Brennan and I always love checking out Circle B Diecast, the latest offerings. You should go check them out as well. I'll put the link, if you're watching on YouTube, the link to circlebdiecast.com is down in the description below. You talked a moment ago, Brennan, about you're racing with the 14, the 41 Stuart Haas racing cars. Stuart Haas has been in the news. Been some bad news for them lately, I guess, with just not great performance out of their cars. But Josh Berry last week was confirmed as the new driver of the 4. He'll take over for Kevin Harvick. So, I guess what I want to say is free agency now, silly season, is kind of in full swing. Like that was one of the first big dominoes to fall. I guess I want to start by just getting your perspective. Broadly speaking, as a driver who obviously has moved from team to team in the past, how difficult is it to, if you're a free agent right now, how difficult is it to race week to week when you're also trying to manage your future? You're looking for your next opportunity. You're trying to get deals done, find sponsorship. Like, give us some insight into the mind of a driver during this time of year.
Yeah, I mean, first thing I do want to say is congratulations to Josh. It's pretty awesome. I feel like, Josh and I are very similar in a lot of ways. I raced late model stock cars, won a lot of races, won championships in the same deal that he was doing. I raced against the junior late model cars back when I was doing that. So, and then to have his Xfinity break, it didn't really go so well. And then to come back and have his resurgence and then to get the Cup ride is awesome. I feel like I'm in the middle of that same journey. So you got to pull for guys like that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'm pulling for him, and so happy for him on that. It's awesome, and he deserves it. So yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've certainly had almost every year of my career, I never really knew what I was doing the next year, which makes it difficult. I mean, the last couple years, like I've kind of known where I was going and what I was going to be doing to an extent. But it's just, you never, like for me, like I never really feel great about it until I'm like at the track and like my name's on the car and I'm like, I'm getting into it. Then I'm like, okay, it's happening. But for the most part, you just, you're never really sure. You're always working towards the goal. Like I work with, my family members that help me and some people in the industry that help me try to help guide me on where I need to go. And then I try to figure that out. But, like for this past season with Johnny and the stuff that we're doing this year, he talked to me the previous year and then wanted to give me a few races, and we worked together on that. And there was some funding that came together for me to run 3 races with him the previous year to see how we worked together. And then of course we ran really, really well. And so all of us were like, okay, well, we need to try to go in this direction and figure it out for the next year. So I kind of had an idea that's what, where I was going to be. So so right now for me, like in my silly season, this is too early for me still to know what's going on. I'm it's still a long way to go in the year, but I think some discussions will start happening in the next couple of months.
I hadn't thought really, going back to Josh Berry for a second, I hadn't really thought about the sort of parallels between where you're at and where Josh is at in your careers, similar backgrounds, I guess similar age. I guess y'all are both about the same age now. But I guess, does it feel, I don't know, how does it feel seeing a guy like Josh Berry get a top Cup ride? Because I think we can call the 4-car a top Cup ride, even though, the SHR, I don't know what's going on over there. They aren't seeming nearly as fast as they used to be. But like, how does it feel seeing a guy get that ride despite, as far as I know, he's not bringing any significant sponsorship to that. Maybe something that I don't, but like he might have a few races here or there. I know he signed with KHI, so I'm sure Harvick's group will help him find a few sponsors here and there. But like, I don't, does that give you confidence? Because I mean, you talk about, every driver talks about how much it costs. You have to go out. It's almost like you as a driver have to convince a sponsor that you're talented enough. They'll give you the money, and if you have the money at that point, the owner doesn't care. I mean, as long as you're not a joke, they'll give you a seat. They'll give you a chance. So, like, does it cause you to kind of rethink your philosophy or your strategy at all when you see a guy like Josh Berry get a ride almost solely based on merit, or is it just that's such a fluke almost that it doesn't change your?
I don't think it's a fluke. I think it's the start of the model changing. I think, like, I don't know, like, I agree with what Dale Jr. and Tony Stewart both had to say. I think, there's a different way to try to take, we can't start looking at this and take a 16-year-old and just like try to build him and nurture him and develop him into this point and then put him into a cup car. I just don't think it works like that anymore. Granted, I never really thought that was the best way of doing things. I mean, Joey Logano, literally, who is now one of the best cup drivers in the series and has been probably one of the best drivers for a long time, is a two-time champion, so you can't take anything away from him. And he literally almost was out. He got fired. True. So and you look at guys like William Byron, it's taken them a lot of years in the Cup Series to progress. It's just, it takes time and maturity to handle everything that comes with being a Cup Series driver. And I think, maybe some teams should start looking at older, mature drivers who have been through a lot of different things. So the maturity level is a lot different. They have a better understanding of how things work. It's not all about them. It's about the team and the organization and rising together in order to accomplish the goals. And that's how you stay there as a driver. You got to be able to make the most out of what you've got. And I'm sure, even like Stuart Haas, those guys struggling, the good drivers will find a way to turn the program around and they will get better results. So, because you just don't have a choice or you go away. So, I mean, I think, for me, it takes sponsorship money. I don't think there's anyone that's just like getting rides in Xfinity or in like the top cars that don't have money attached to them. Even like Josh Berry, granted, he got help with Junior and all them. They helped collectively together find that money, but they still found sponsorship money for him to do that. So you still have to have it. So I don't know. We'll see. Things are going well for me. So I feel very positive about everything. Feel very, very positive about my future. Racing in the Cup Series is, it's the dream.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely. I can imagine.
Yeah.
We're going to talk to a Cup Series racer here in just a few minutes. Corey LaJoie is joining us this week. He is our special guest. But before we bring Corey in, Brennan, I want to pivot a bit. We've talked a little bit about Nashville. We talked about free agency. What's it look like? What is the bigger picture? How are drivers managing it? But I want to ask about Chicago. I want to talk about Chicago a bit, and I'll get your take in a moment. I know you're running the Xfinity race. You've got a Chicago-based company on your car, and I see the hat there. Looks really nice. Looks really cool.
We got some cool stuff happening with it too that I'll share in a minute.
Yeah, I want to get your opinion first on the Chicago street race, because where I come from on this is I appreciate NASCAR taking the risk. This has the potential to be maybe one of their best ideas ever, but it could also be a total disaster. Based on ticket sales and things I've seen, that part I don't think is going to be a disaster. It's more about what happens on the racetrack. Cup Series at least hasn't raced a street course ever. Xfinity Series, I mean, I guess if you count like Montreal, I guess is a street course kind of, but like nothing that looks quite like Chicago, where it's concrete barriers on either side. It's very narrow. I don't think there's hardly any like runoff area in any of the corners. So you make a mistake and you're probably not the only one who's going to be destroyed if someone makes a mistake or if you make a mistake. So yeah, that's the part that worries me. And I'm also not a big fan that they took Road America off the schedule for this race. I was there in 2021 for the first July 4th weekend Road America race, and it was different for sure, but it felt like a love letter to core NASCAR fans, especially, I know there are a ton of race fans in the Midwest, Wisconsin in particular. I'm not sure if you've raced in Wisconsin. I mean, outside maybe a NASCAR event, but like the short track scene there, everybody knows how established it is. So many greats have come through, have come out of Wisconsin and made it to NASCAR, made it to the top level and won championships. So to leave Road America for Chicago, I feel like there's got to be some sort of rivalry there. Like I talked to some fans at Nashville this weekend, weekend, who were big Road America fans and were very disappointed to see them going to Chicago. So it's just, once again, NASCAR, from the way I see it, them, chasing after a new fan, but risking potentially alienating the existing core audience that exists, in the Midwest. It's a very, Chicago's going to be a very exclusive event. Tickets are expensive. They're not selling like a ton of them. The concert experience, it's more than a race. It's not meant to appeal to the hardcore race fan. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I think time will tell if this truly turns out to be a good investment, if the ratings are great, if if there are new fans, new markets generated as a result of this. But going in, I'm optimistic, I'm excited, but I'm cautiously aware that it could be a total disaster, at least on track. So as someone who's been in the sim, I imagine, who's been getting prepared for this race, are you running Cup, or are you just doing Xfinity this weekend?
Just Xfinity.
Okay, but you're going to be on track, I guess. What are your expectations for the race? And first, start with this. I'm going to ask Corey the same question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you, or I don't know, enthusiastic are you about racing Chicago Street?
I don't know if I can put it into like in an excitement level. I think there's some anxiety over it, like, because it's just such an unknown, and like getting in and getting out of the track and where to stay, like
just the logistic. That's what has me the most stressed going as a fan. I'm just like, how am I going to get to the track? Is it going to be easy to, like, can I take an Uber? Do I have to take a train? Where's food going to be? How easy will it be to navigate? Like that's the stuff that has me as stressed out as the race itself.
Yeah, I think like that part of it's going to be a little confusing and a little tricky, and there probably will be some people that make some mistakes there on that. But I mean, I'm not sure. I like I said, I don't know if I can put it like on a 1 to 10 number. I mean, there's certainly a lot of unknown around it, which creates like the nerves and the anxiety over like what is this going to be. Of course, there in Xfinity, there are a lot of cars going home, so there's pressure to qualify in the race. So true. And none of us have been on the track before. It's a street course. What's the grip level going to be like in the simulator and all that stuff? Like, we don't really know what the grip level is going to be like. So like everyone's just kind of like guessing at this. So what's going to be tough. I think it's going to be cool to run a street course and like have the high rises and the stuff around. I mean, that's pretty neat. Mm-hmm. It's very like Formula One-esque, I guess, I suppose. But I mean, yeah, I mean, Road America is like one of the best road courses in this country. It's like by far my favorite place that I've ever raced as far as a road course goes. Yeah, absolutely love the track. So I think it's kind of a bummer that the Cup cars aren't going there. So yeah, I don't know. That doesn't make a whole lot of like that part of it. I'm confused on why we would swap a date or I feel like Road America should have still stayed on for some way somehow, but I don't know how they work all that stuff out and why it didn't work out. But I think it's going to be interesting for sure. The track's really rough from what I understand. I mean, you're going over bridges and stuff, and if you've watched IndyCar in like Nashville, like over those, I mean, some of the bumps are like really rough. So it's just going to be interesting. A lot of blind corners. Which I think is going to make it tough for like practice and qualifying.
And again, if somebody gets out of shape, it's going to be big.
You can't see. Yeah. You break straight and it's like a 90-degree corner and you look that way. And as you get around the corner, oh, there's somebody. Bam. You can't. Yeah. What are you going to do? So I think that part of it's going to be a challenge. And there could be potential weather for this weekend. I don't know if you've looked at any of that, but there's a chance of rain. So
great. Why not?
Yeah, great. We're all thinking about why not throw it in there. So I don't know what that's going to look like. But yeah, I think it's just going to be for us. It's like make the race and then just take care of the car and just take care of everything. And then I think ultimately you'll get out of there with a good finish.
That's probably true.
Yeah, I think that's all we need to. I think that's all we need to do.
And are you excited? Are you excited about being in Chicago, like as a city? Like I don't know how much you visited. I visited a good handful of times. I mean, I'm such a tourist. I love deep dish pizza. I'm going to a Cubs game later this week. We talked to Jeremy Clements last episode about ballparks. Mm-hmm. I'm like, yep, I went to Wrigley as a kid, but I got to see it again as an adult, get a better memory of it. So how do you feel about like Chicago?
Yeah, I like Gene and Jude's hot dogs where they put the fries on top.
Nice.
I like the food scene and stuff there. I definitely like going to Wrigley is really, really cool. It's like one of the oldest, I think it is the oldest ballpark left. Maybe
Probably
not,
that or
maybe.
Fenway, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, so like just going in there, the history, like man, it's really cool.
It's big.
But
Like
I
it
don't know.
is. It's not like a little, like you kind of said, the high rises, there's skyscrapers going to be on either side. You're
Yeah.
racing down Michigan Avenue. It's like, that's massive.
Yeah, it's pretty wild. Yeah, all that part of it's going to be neat. I mean, I don't think I'm going to have a whole lot of time to like explore Chicago, right? Like,
Mm.
I think I'll just be there. I've got some sponsorship obligations and stuff to do, and then I've got the practice and qualifying in the race, and then like I'm going to be out. Like that's just how it's going to work for me. But I mean, I have spent some time in Chicago separately. One of my best friends lives in the downtown there, so I think and from what I hear from him, I mean he loves it. So I don't foresee a whole lot of issues other than some people who may not care about racing are probably a little annoyed that some streets are closed.
Yeah, I could believe that. I understand
But
that. Makes sense.
other than that, I really don't think there's going to be too much of an issue. I think it's going to be go on as fine. I think watching it on TV would probably be better than being there. Like I know
To see
some
the
people
actual
might not want me to
race.
say that. Yeah,
Yeah,
you're gonna be able to see everything and all the action. You're not gonna miss anything. And like I wouldn't
exactly.
want to miss the chaos. I would
For
want to see it
sure.
on TV. So
I'm hoping,
um,
as someone who's going to be there in person and really wants to also see the race, in addition to the environment, the
yeah,
experience itself, I hope they have big screens and things and something. I'm a little worried that I'm just going to have
yeah,
one view of like a corner. And I
and
mean,
not be able to
good.
see anything else.
Yeah, good luck following the race from there. So we'll see how they do it.
Yeah,
That's why I'm going, is because I want to see one. I like visiting Chicago, like I said. I don't know if I'd ever live up there. It's too cold. You
yeah,
get this, California, Texas.
yeah.
It's hard to leave the. We complain about the heat this time of year, but it's better than the frigid cold. I actually went to Chicago last year around New Year's. My girlfriend's grandmother lives there, so we went to visit her. It was the first time I'd ever been to Chicago, really anywhere that far north, like during winter, and it snowed
Yeah.
every day I was there. I mean, it was hard. It was painful to go outside. I couldn't do it. Anyway, point is,
Uh,
I love visiting Chicago. That's part of why I'm visiting, but I also want to see the event in person, because I think that's what this is meant for. Is it's meant to be an in-person event that attracts new fans in a new market. And I just hope I can also follow the race, because watching at home on TV, it'll probably be a lot easier to follow what's going on. So
yeah, I listen. I'm not a winter guy, although I would love. I'm sure many of our fans have watched Yellowstone. Love to have a ranch in Montana. Come on, but I don't know about being there when it's negative 33 degrees outside.
that's
I don't even know if you can keep a cow warm in a barn when it's negative 33 degrees outside. I don't know how they make it. I
yeah.
don't know. Do I want to be on the lake in a high rise city in No, I don't want to do that.
The
I'm good. I'm
windy
gonna
city
pass on
as
that.
well. It's the wind chill
It is
is
windy. Yeah, it's like
unbearable.
it's unbearable. Yeah, it's cold, but I
Yeah.
mean, it's a cool city. I do want to say, I want to throw this out, and maybe Eric, if Eric's kind enough to me, guys. Sometimes Eric's mean. I'm just kidding. He's not at all. But so we're gonna do this deal to bid on my suit, and if you go to bidonthesuit.com, which is pretty easy to remember, but maybe Eric will put it in the
I'll put
description
it on
below. You
screen.
can yeah, bid on wait, let me check. Bid on the suit, okay? .com. I'm reading it right here off of my phone, just double checking. Don't want to mess it up.
Accurate.
You can bid on the suit I'm actually going to wear in the race. And all of it's going to go to helping remove plastic and stuff in our oceans. So
Nice.
please bid on it, and you can have a piece of history. A suit that was worn on the very first ever race, because we raced before Cup,
That's true.
on the street circuit in Chicago. So it's a historic event. Please bid on the suit. You'll be helping our oceans, and you'll also have an awesome piece of history. So I would appreciate it if you guys did that. Yeah, maybe you can have Eric's got one of my suits.
Yeah,
You guys
maybe
can have a suit too.
I'll bid on it, and I can add to my collection. It's over
There you
there in the
go.
corner.
Look at you got all kinds of cool stuff up there, man, on your
Yeah,
wall.
I got to keep it busy, so when people watch my videos, they have something to look at other than my face.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
I
This
think
is a cool thing that Vanderhagen is doing. They they have a lot of I've got this crazy pirate stash and I got to keep it under control. And I've been using their products for a while, and then it just turned into to the stuff that we're doing together in Chicago. And Yeah, stuff works great. So check it out if you've got a pirate stash like me, or you got a beard like Eric. They got all kinds of great stuff. So I'm just throwing that out there because I do use it. And if you look, it's not a bad stash.
It looks pretty good. On it. Looks good to me. Real quick, before we bring in Corey LaJoie, just to kind of wrap this all up, I want to talk schedule stuff. We haven't talked since Le Mans, since NASCAR's Garage 56, but since that effort, NASCAR executives have talked about going international someday. We're obviously talking about a street course here in Chicago. Montreal has been brought up again as something, maybe the Cup Series, somewhere the Cup Series could go to in the future. So, Brennan, how would you feel? Like, what other street courses or what other cities, other tracks abroad, wherever, are there any that jump out off the page at you that you're like, yeah, we should I don't know how you get all the cars over there, but let's that would be great. That would be an awesome place to check out.
Yeah. There's so many good ones. Obviously Montreal makes the most sense. It's just
easiest to
right
get
about.
to.
Yeah. And it's an awesome track. I think they're there's a lot of fans there that also like NASCAR and the oval racing and the stuff that we do down here. So I think that would be great. Plus it's another Formula One track. I would love to race there and say that I did it. I'm very good at it on the simulator. Okay. So, can we go a NASCAR, please? Yeah, I think that would be cool. I would like to run, maybe in my elder years, I would like to run in the 24 hours of Le Mans. Just super cool, prestigious race. Seeing the Garage 56 deal do it, man, that was just really, really cool.
Did you see all the memes, all the eagles screeching and
Yes. There's so many funny memes, and it was really wild to see the photo of all the other cars, and then the Cup car right in the middle. I was like, wow, that is gnarly. And they're like, no, this is a real photo. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah, well, all that stuff was cool. So I don't know, man. There are some really amazing road courses. I don't know, how difficult is it to get to Interlagos in Brazil? Is that, that track's an infamous, famous, amazing road course. One of the best, layouts of a course ever. So I don't know, man, there's so many cool ones. I personally the Chicago street course is cool. I think it'd be really cool to race with the New York City skyline in the background. I know Formula One, I think they tried to do that. I don't know if that was real to it, but I think it would be cool.
I think Formula E races somewhere in the New York area. It is kind of a backdrop, but it's not right there in the city like Chicago is, or like Formula One was trying. So that might be realistic.
I'm cool if it's a backdrop. Put it in New Jersey. Let's race through the streets of Hoboken. I don't know.
And what's the football stadium over there in East Rutherford?
I don't. Is that where the
Giants?
Gillette's New England, isn't it?
Yeah. Is it MetLife Stadium?
MetLife.
All right. It came to us at the same time. I think that's what it's called. I'm gonna take that. Yeah, race right over there.
We'll pay. We'll just what they need to do is make it so the grandstands can flip. They'll just turn around backwards and face outside, and then we'll pave a track in the parking lot around the stadium. So it's
wild.
A little bigger.
That's something Phineas and Ferb would concoct.
It probably is something Phineas and Ferb would do.
I don't even know where MetLife Stadium is. I don't even know if it's that close to the city. So, but I know they always talk about building.
I don't think.
Okay, then maybe not. I just know they always talk about building tracks around football stadiums. That's what IndyCar did in Nashville. That's what I was.
Well, can we race in Miami? Why don't we do doubleheader with F1? I don't know. They wouldn't like it.
I love the F1, but yacht sitting on the fake water that they have. Over there.
Come hang out on this yacht, and it's on asphalt.
That's so funny. And I'm on board. Like I said, I'm always down to try something, and if it sticks, it sticks.
What do you think? I guess we could go to England, but NFL goes in. Could we race at Silverstone? That would be kind of cool. But I don't.
I think you've covered a lot of them.
Road course stuff.
I think you've covered a lot of them. I think it'd be neat to go maybe to Australia. I know there's obviously a lot of great racing. Down under, so you can always try something like that out. But you go to Europe. There's any F1 track. I know there's some ovals. I know I did a video recently. People were commenting about a couple different oval tracks that are maybe a little older. There's an intermediate oval, I think somewhere in the UK. I forget where exactly. That might need to be fixed up a little. But yeah, imagine NASCAR takes oval racing abroad. That's true. That's what I loved about Garage 56 is it was so unapologetically American that I think all the European fans seeing it for the first time just couldn't help but at least chuckle or talk about it oh my gosh, it's exotic to them. A Chevy Camaro is exotic.
They liked it. It sounded like they liked it. But I mean, here's the deal, though. Let me throw this at you, because this is just absolutely insanity. What if we take all the Cup teams, all 36 chartered cars,
okay,
and we do like a downhill rally style down Pikes Peak, and just be like, fastest time wins, send it
downhill? I like that. That's
I mean,
sketchy.
Yeah, it's sketchy. There's there's nothing.
There's no railing. There's
no, and see who
you're
goes
above the
fastest.
tree line.
I would like to see a Cup car do a rally. We're doing Garage 56. Can we do? I don't know what we could call it, Garage something, and Garage Rally.
I kind of like it.
Let them do a rally.
The Cup Series,
I want to see one do a rally.
The Cup Series schedule is already so diverse, from different size ovals, pack racing, stadium race, dirt race, a street course, road courses. Now you need like you're saying, a rally style race.
That's what we should do for the
Clash.
Climb. That's what we do for the Clash. No, we don't need to do an oval when this deal's done. Let's do a rally somewhere, and just like call it good. I don't know. I would honestly, I would go to see that. Like, I would go. I mean, how crazy it is. So a Cup car flips over off the side, and like a bunch of fans run out of the woods and like push it back over, and they take.
I can just hear NASCAR's, just the safety department cringing, or
they're probably mad at me for even saying.
The AMR safety team is absolutely not a fan of that idea.
Well, we're taking these cars have diffusers and stuff on them, and we're racing them on dirt. I mean, we need a pavement / dirt / gravel / through a town, through the woods, out of the mountain.
Again, it would be diverse, very eclectic. NASCAR schedule would get even more exciting, crazy.
That's what we should ask Corey. Hey, Corey, what do you think about doing a rally in a Cup car?
We'll see if that comes up. We might have to bring that up with him. That's a good segue, though. I think it's about time we bring Corey in. First, though, this episode is sponsored by Circle B Diecast. I've got a diecast to show off. Brennan, I know you're a big Jeff Gordon fan. I forgot I had this.
Oh yeah.
I found this
Jeff Gordon.
I found this at a flea market a couple of years ago, and it's obviously the DuPont Flames, but in collaboration with your favorite Looney Tunes characters. You've got who's on the back there? I don't even see. Is that Yosemite Sam on the back and on the sides?
It sure is.
You've got
Daffy and Bugs. This at a flea market.
Yeah, it was a pretty exciting find. I got
so no box, or it had the box.
It had the box. It was still in the box.
It had the box and everything.
Yeah.
That's an interesting find.
It was a good, kind of fun movie as a kid. Brendan Fraser, when he was, in his prime, although Brendan Fraser's kind of had a resurgence in recent years.
Did you see The Whale?
I did not, but I know he did. Did he win the Oscar for that?
Yeah,
he
did.
Just nominated? Yeah, good for him.
He won.
But yeah, this was, younger Brendan Fraser, post Mummy Brendan Fraser, hanging out with Daffy Duck and Bugs Bunny, and he was on Jeff Gordon had a cameo in that movie, if you remember correctly, where he's like the getaway driver, I think, or he's involved in a car chase through the streets of Las Vegas.
I forgot about that.
NASCAR should race in Las Vegas. Jeff Gordon in 2003 or whenever proved that was possible.
Okay, all right. I guess it's mine. I'm throwing it way back to a guy who's very good at racing those modifieds with wings on top of them at Berlin. Johnny Benson. Hold on.
Oh, nice.
All right.
I've seen this one.
This is Johnny Benson's. Sorry for the glare. James Dean Valvoline.
Whoa.
Number 10 hot rod. Focus in, camera. It's focusing on me. Should I hide my face? There we go. No, maybe not. But anyways, Johnny Benson, really good. Was a fan of him in the Truck Series. Was a fan of him when he drove this 10 car. I don't think he got to drive it that long. It's also crazy because it's a Pontiac. I mean, how many of you out there remember the Pontiacs?
I don't have many Pontiac diecasts.
Eric was a child, and I mean, I was even a child still. I probably was 9 or 10 when he ran this car. I do remember we talked about this earlier. Scott Riggs drove the number 10 too, as well. So, I just always thought this was a cool car. This was gifted to me by some family friends. Al Terra, shout out Al if you're listening to the show, because I think you do. But they gave me this. I believe they gave me this for. I don't know if it was because I won a race or if it was for a Christmas gift. They did both. Every time I won a race, they gave me a car, and then every time at Christmas I got a car too, because they were like dealers. So, this is an awesome little deal. It's got like the film roll down the side.
Yeah, that's cool.
Notice that?
I like that.
It's just a really cool looking car.
Very unique scheme.
I liked it. Plus, people forget Johnny Benson used to be kind of like the man,
Yeah. There you go. And when we had Carson Hocevar on a few episodes ago, he talked all about Johnny Benson, the role he's played in his getting his NASCAR career up and going off the ground. But on that note, thank you again to Circle B Diecast for sponsoring this show. Again, use code OOTG for free shipping on orders over $30 at circlebdiecast.com. Brennan, I think it's time we bring in the man himself. Corey LaJoie joins us here on Power Hour. We are now joined by Corey LaJoie, Super Shoe. You know, Corey, I've always wondered, where did you get that nickname, Super Shoe? Because it looks sick when you sign things with the S, the little Superman S looking.
Well, I've had it since, man, like I was probably 12 or 13, back when people thought I was good. I was, winning a bunch of go-kart races, Legends Cars races, and one of Dad's buddies kind of coined Super Shoe. It's kind of like hot hands if you're a wide receiver, right? They call you a shoe if you can wheel. So I got to the Cup Series and I dropped the Super, and some people call me Shoe now. So I'm trying to run good enough where I can earn that Super back on the front side.
I like it. That's interesting. We were just talking, Brennan and I were just talking about the Chicago street race. So I want to just sort of jump off there. I asked Brennan to rate his excitement or enthusiasm for Chicago this weekend on a scale of 1 to 10. So I'll ask you the same question, Corey. 1 to 10. How excited are you about racing a street course this weekend?
A 10, man. I really am excited. It's going to be really cool. I think some of my strength as a race car driver isn't necessarily at a road course, but I do think my strengths are being disciplined and hitting your marks. And I think why I don't necessarily excel, I'm getting way better at a road course, but I think why I don't excel, because I don't go 100%. I go like, I just find myself going like 97%, 98% into the brake zones because I don't have confidence. And I think that's kind of where you're going to want to live, because if you overstep that 100.1% at a place like this, there's no margin for error. So I think being super precise, hitting your marks, getting the most out of your brake zones, and also downtown Chicago's freaking badass too. So my excitement level is really high.
Awesome. You sound a little more sure of yourself than Brennan did a few minutes ago.
No, like I couldn't like put a number on it. I'm like, I don't know how to put a number on the excitement level. I think there is some anxiety around it just from a logistical standpoint. And like for me in our situation and so many blind corners and a practice and all the unknowns and our team, I was just like, I don't even know what I would say about that. I think it's just like such an unknown. Like, yeah, I'm excited to go and do it, but at the same time, I'm like, I know like what you're talking about. Like, I know I have to be perfect. I have to execute, stay out of trouble, and hopefully go around some blind corners and no one's waiting on me.
There's a high likelihood of that. So if that's the case, then it wasn't your day.
Yeah, you need some luck at Chicago. I think you need you're going to need some things to go your way.
Yeah, and I gave a homeless guy $20 for today, so I'm feeling pretty good with my luck.
Karma's on your side. Well,
yeah.
Hopefully that's the case. I'll toss things over to Brennan here in a second, but I'll just start off, I guess, Corey. I haven't talked to you much this year, but you've had, statistically speaking, you're having your best Cup Series career yet. 21st in the points. So how do you feel about Spire's progress? Now, I guess 3 years you've been there.
Yeah, I feel like we are right at, or maybe a touch above where we thought we'd be after a three-year runway. It's never something quick when you build something literally from the foundation up. And we had to lay the foundation. We had to hire people. We had to get cars. And we had that lame duck year, the first year in 21 with we kind of had some oddball Ganassi cars and not a great validated sim. So we get to the next gen car and had a lot of growing pains, had a lot of DNFs mechanically, and just probably some middle driving race cars from not really understanding what made these cars go. But now Sparks, my crew chief, and Roy and myself are starting to really kind of hone in on what my feel is to best give me confidence to rifle a lap off. And I still think that there's room. There certainly is. We're 21st, right? You got 20 spots to go. But I think for what we can achieve, I think a lot of times we are achieving what externally people might think that we're overachieving, but I think internally we know that we're all capable of running how we are. And then there's some weeks where we could run better than that. Now we're to the point in our comp meetings, not trying to talk about how we just get the half a second gap close to the guy running 20th. Like, we're trying to figure out how to make a 19th place day flip and be a 14th place day. I mean, those are bigger conversations and harder to achieve. So we've had a lot of same guys, a lot of new guys, but Sparks and I, this is our 4th year working together, and all that stuff's starting to show up, especially when we bring fast cars to the track.
Absolutely. And I know before we went live, you and Brennan were talking about Chevy. I'll let Brennan kind of ask that question.
Yeah, I mean, well, you guys obviously have made a lot of progress. I think it's been good to see, but I think also, Corey and I have known each other a long time. I mean, I don't know how old we were when we really knew each other, but Legend Car days and all that kind of stuff. So we've kind of watched each other drive and have our own little successes here and there throughout over the years. But I think for me, like, I've seen you, really mature from like UARA days to like now. And I really feel like the last couple of years, it's like you've turned a corner and have really become like a really solid race car driver. And as a guy who I think most people see is like, man, if at some point he'll get in some good equipment, or not that you're not in good equipment, but to the level with the facilities, with the full support, with everything, and can win races on a regular basis. So I think, I think it's interesting to see. I mean, I know, like, I do some sim stuff with Chevy, and they help like JD a little bit, but it's not to the extent of like it was when I was at Ganassi or any of the other teams. But I was wondering, like, how much does Chevy actually help you and help you guys out as far as like information or sharing or any of that kind of stuff?
Yeah. So there's key partners over at Chevy, right? That they get all the financial backing, they get all the competitive data, and they also, all 3 teams share notebooks, and that's RCR, Trackhouse, and Hendrick. So there's your 8 teams that are kind of getting all the flow of aero notes and simulation and damper settings. Also, the majority of the block of motion sim time, where then you go down to the underneath that rung. There's just, I think, partners, and then there's like associate partners. And you just get your a little bit less sim time. I think we see the motion sim once a month, give or take. The tire modeling on there is a bit different than the key partners, and you don't get any financial support. But on the flip side of that, the help that we have gotten from GM has been part of the bump in performance. You look at the year that JTG's having, and it's a similar bump. That obviously Daytona 500 champs, but they've been running collectively better, every week. And I think what you did see, though, like, you see a week like, Ricky's been having top 10 runs, legitimately 7th to 10th place for the last 6 weeks. And then he goes and has a 27th place day. Like, the floor for the teams that aren't key partners is still much lower than the teams that have all those resources to pull from. And it just kind of makes the depth of what they're doing and the knowledge they have that much more. I learned that even more so, the 3 days I was over drinking out of the fire hose, about to drive the 9 car at St. Louis. But though, I mean, GM is a very powerful machine with the amount of resources they have, the amount of great engineers they have over there, and those guys are all plugged in, and that's why those guys, you see Ross and you see the Hendrick guys have some success. So we're trying to get more. Obviously, we want more as we can get, but I think Spire is kind of in that place of the totem pole at GM for a little while until some things change. But nonetheless, we can be efficient and keep growing and keep getting a little bit incrementally better.
I wanted to ask you another thing, like something a little bit more personal. Just because, as kids, and I'm sure you heard the same saying too. It's like, a race car driver has a kid, and it's like they drive differently. And you're a father now, and Eric and I, aren't yet at our stages in our life. So you have a little bit of a better understanding on that and what it's like to be a dad. And I just was wanting to know, like, do you feel any different? I'm sure you feel different as a person, but do you feel any different about how you approach being a race car driver now that you are a father?
I used to be the one that would say that. I mean, kids slow you down, right? I mean, Kyle Busch had a kid, had Brexton, and he had a couple down years. Like, well, you must have had a kid. It slows you down. But now having a kid, I'm like, no, that's the opposite. I feel like, those suckers, one, are super expensive. I mean, diapers are not cheap, buddy. You got to get up on the wheel to get that spot for some diaper money. That is actually true. I mean, I've thought about that. Like, I got to get 15 so I can get in the money, because I got to put some money in Levi's account, right? I got to pay for some daycare. So I have changed my tune substantially since having kids, because for me, it allows me to focus when I'm at the track or I'm at the shop. I can be fully focused on the job at hand, right? I can focus on being a good leader. I can focus on trying to make our car drive better. I can focus about, how to grow or just hone my skills as to what I can do behind the wheel. And then when I leave the shop or leave the track, I can shut that off and flip on being a dad. And it's allowed me to be a lot more present with where I'm at. And you can get burned out by racing just because you have to be so locked in, and you have to be perfect, and you have to, continue always be malleable and learn new things. And, if you are only focused on that 24 hours a day, it can burn you out pretty quickly. So just having the first one, and then, now having two, it's allowed me to really unplug, recharge the batteries during the week, and then hit the weekend running. And I think it's made me a better race car driver for sure.
That makes a lot of sense to me as someone who doesn't have kids, but
Yeah.
I guess I can imagine.
Yeah, I recommend them. I recommend them, man. They're fun. Can't come soon enough either. Once I had one, I'm 31 now. Had the first one when I was 28. I was like, dang, I wish I'd have had them when I was 23.
Oof.
Just be like one of them young cool dads when you're 40 and your kid's 20.
Yeah, and you're playing football in the backyard, and you're like tackling your grown kid.
Yeah.
I was still having too much fun, I think, at 22 and 23. I think I had like just met Lindsay at that time. I think we were 23 when we met, but I'm holding off just a little bit, just a few more years. Not
That's
much,
fair.
just a few more.
There's a lot of doing the grind you're doing, man. I feel like I finally just got, maybe the last 16 months, got like a little bit of a tailwind as opposed to a headwind of my career, of partners and reputation and experience and all the things. I feel like had always been up against a headwind in my career, but running well and continuing to grow relationships I've had in the sport, I feel like I've got a bit of a tailwind. So I say all that. You still got the headwind, buddy, and I appreciate the grind. And it's hard to do that and put forth the amount of effort that you're putting towards right now, trying to get your career to a place where it has a little bit more consistency if you weave a kid in there. So I could appreciate that outlook on it too.
Yeah, no, I mean, thanks for acknowledging the grind, but I know you've been through it too. And I'm in that moment of the grind for sure. And I'm just pushing for what I know I can do. I think I'm still just fighting for a good seat, or at least a seat that I can show what I'm capable of. I think I've been able to have certain opportunities where we've ran well, and hopefully it turns into more for me. But yeah, I'm still fighting the good fight, and hopefully I'll get on the tailwind eventually.
Yeah.
Man, I've kind of changed my tune a lot. Just the more time I spend in the Cup Series, the more time I spend with the ownership Aspire and just my guys in the trenches. Like, I've changed my tune of like what a good seat is. And also, driving the 9 car for a week, that's like the best seat, right? He's a champion, and Alan's a multiple time Cup winning champion. Like, that's who you want to get the call from Rick. And I got it a couple weeks ago. Like, the 7 is a good seat. Like, I've much more appreciated that, because there isn't a magic pill. There's not a magic crew chief. There's not a magic car number, a team. It's like, there's deeper teams, and they have more resources and probably more budget, which buys them more time or more people, which in part is kind of the same thing. But like a seat at the table, one of those 36 seats at the table every week on a Sunday, like, is living the dream. And there's some that are faster than others, but like we have made the most strides at the 7 by not looking what everybody else has and just like literally bearing down and like, all right, well, these are the tools we have. Let's figure out how to whip some shit up. And some weeks we hit it and some weeks we don't.
Yeah, I think
I like that
for me, that's the
perspective.
same thing as like, I would love to continue on with RWR. I've gotten a few opportunities this year and I would love to drive the 15 car next year on a more regular basis. I think the new car definitely has changed the game a little bit for that and made it more competitive, and in my limited opportunities, I've only raced 4 times. I've only completed 2 of the races. So, I still got a lot to learn, but yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with what you're saying.
It sounds like you need to
Yeah,
adopt Corey's, stacking pennies mantra. Like, I
yeah.
think that is
Listen,
very emblematic and symbolic of the whole process.
I'm stacking pennies up left and right over here, dude. It's just, just to stay alive in the sport. So
Yeah.
Well, man,
I get it.
there's plenty of guys that have come and go. I said all the time with a lot more talent and a lot better situations originally than I came in with, and they couldn't understand how to play the game, right? They couldn't understand how to figure it out. They couldn't understand how to make themselves a better driver or look at the things they had control over and control those things instead of, um, you know, talking their way out of the sport. So, you know, stacking pennies is a real life thing, bro. Like you stack enough pennies. This is funny. So to, today, I got my check from Hendrick Motorsports for being the reserve driver. And I brought it home. I'm, looking at it, right? Hendrick Motorsports, and you're like, holy shit, I got a driver's check from Rick Hendrick, right? I kept the last BK check I ever got that bounced. So I went to the bank. It didn't cash, right? This was in like June, about this time. It's like when the checks just stopped coming all together, and I just drove for free the rest of the year. And I literally put the 2 checks next to each other. Like, had I stopped at this amount for nothing, right? This one here absolutely never comes, right? And how much shit was in between that check, the one that bounced and never cashed, to the one that came from Rick Hendrick? Like, there's a lot of stuff to be said about that. The space in between those the dates in between those 2 checks. So that's a pretty cool story.
That is an
Yeah.
incredible journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. To see that side by side. Wow. Corey, we really appreciate your time. I had just a couple final questions. I do want to ask you about Gateway. You brought it up a couple of times. I remember you said after, you substitute for Chase Elliott that you said you've got some work to go do and that you weren't seemingly very happy with the result. I know from my perspective, I think Brennan shares this perspective, substitute role, running a track that Hendrick hadn't run very well at in the past. I don't make too much of that finish, but now that you've had a few weeks to sit on it, how do you assess or how do you think about that race you had in the 9 car?
Yeah, I mean, I think the result was disappointing, but I wasn't disappointed with my effort. I knew what areas that I could work on, but you go from having a drip out of a spigot worth of information in terms of when it comes to having to learn what it takes to be the best driver you can possibly be for 6 years, and then you all of a sudden get a fire hose worth of information Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, right? And
Yeah.
then you go into the weekend and you can't really figure out without having a lot of time with the amount of data that GM gives you and Hendrick gives you with driver comparisons and segment loops and all that sort of stuff that I've never seen before of what's noise and what's actually able to be digestible. So I was really noisy. I was really stiff. At the end of the day, I didn't realize how much confidence and like confidence you have in just like your routine. And I didn't even think that I had a routine, but just the common conversations, the you put in the trailer, what time you eat, where you go, the faces you see, the appearances you have, all that stuff was different for me for that week. And, when I drive the 7 car any given week, I'm confident to send it. Like the amount of, the age old saying, you talk to my dad, and my dad filled in for Ricky Craven in 1998 in the 50 car. He's like, just do the same thing you were doing. and go, 95%, and the car is going to do the work. It's a different NASCAR than it was. This next gen car is a different animal than it was. Everybody is at the 99.5, 99.8%, right? So you can't, if you go 95%, you're 27th, 25th, like I did all day in that thing, because I didn't have the confidence, one, because I didn't want to wreck Rick Hendrick's car. I didn't want to give those guys a bad result being in for 1 week. Meanwhile, right, Carson comes in with nothing to lose and was just hanging my shit out and driving it fast. The setup that we had worked weeks on to try to figure out how to go to Gateway with something good, he gets to drive. And the setup where Hendrick's like, we don't really have a good one for Gateway, so this is what we came up with, was kind of what we went with. But it was disappointing overall. But after the week was over and the dust had all settled, I left there confident that, if I got the resources and the data and was in a system like that with really good teammates that are constantly setting the bar that you can measure yourself up against and figuring out the ways to make yourself better behind the wheel, like I could build myself into a champion. That's what I legitimately felt like leaving there. And then you go back to the small drip of information, Spire. But now I can go back and ask for certain things from Alan Gustafson, who can be a help. I can ask things from some buddies at GM in the engineering department for some driver tools that I hadn't seen before. So there's certain things that I can go do on my end of just seeing it for a couple of days. And whether or not that call comes again, I'm gonna prepare and keep doing the same thing I had been doing. The biggest thing I think I came away understanding, right? It's like, and Brennan lives it, is, you're constantly making calls and you're leveraging relationships and you're trying to like work the chess pieces of the garage in your favor to like either get in a car or stay in a car. And that's what you have to do to survive, especially in the back quarter of the garage. And I'm no different, right? Like the silly season news, and you hear guys coming, going, you're having conversations in the bathroom, and like you're always like trying to have the next conversation. And I realized like I had not one thing to do with how all those pieces fell together, right? Like that was either a divine intervention, and obviously the Lord had a plan for that particular weekend. I'm not sure what it was, but like that made me aware of like I can try to move the puzzle pieces all I want to and try to work hard. And there's one thing, you gotta work hard, but there's a lot of times in this thing, decisions are made for you. And that was something that I never made for one phone call, one text, and it all worked out. Next thing you know, you're driving a 9 car for Rick Hendrick. So it comes and goes, buddy. I don't really know. I don't have much wise words for you on that. But yeah.
Well, I think
you've given us plenty of wise words, and
yeah,
I still like the tailwind versus headwind analogy. I'm going to use that someday in my day-to-day life.
I think what I would say, just to comment on that again, is we have a lot of people, especially as of men of faith, that like, people come into your life that you didn't put there. You didn't bring them in. God opens those doors and he makes those decisions. And I think I feel like I've been very blessed. Like I'm still driving a race car. I'm still getting paid to drive a race car. And there's only so many guys that get to do it. Right. And I felt that way when I was there this past Sunday in Nashville, pulling into the track and thinking, man, I'm one of 36 guys in the world that get to do this today. And that's a blessing. Right. And I think, Corey, something I've always respected about you is I think when you get in that race car, you know who you're driving for. Right. And that's something that I try to focus on myself as well. And I've always respected that about you since we were kids until now, even as we're adults. And so I appreciate that about you and where your faith is. And it's good to see. And I appreciate the things that you said on the show today. And hopefully I can do some more wheel to wheel battling with you. Like we used to when we were younger in the coming years. But I've certainly enjoyed watching you and certainly enjoyed racing you over the years. And of course, we have a competitive relationship, but I know away from all this too, that we still have, a friendship too. So I appreciate that as well.
No doubt. Yeah. And don't forget, man, I've been telling Ty this too. It's like, there are seasons in life where things just like the ball doesn't bounce your way, right? And there was a time 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when I was driving the JGL car, just like happy when I ran 12th in qualifying, and then you look at the top of the sheet and the 48 was up there, and you're like, damn it, that was a fast lap. Like, you were that dude, and you're still that dude. So don't forget that, right? And you can do it, and it's all about putting yourself around the right people, and timing is super important. But I can assure you that it won't happen if you stop, right? And there's a balance between stopping and starting equity in another career, but there's also something to be said about being the one that doesn't stop when everybody else does, right? Because I can count legitimately 20 guys off the top of my head right now that probably had more talent than me, more money than me, probably more race wins than me at any given time in their career, and just stopped when it got hard, when it got really hard. So I could appreciate you not stopping.
That's some good motivational stuff.
Yeah,
right there.
For sure.
Corey, we really appreciate your time. We appreciate you joining us for Power Hour. Good luck the rest of this season. Hopefully we'll get to see you at the racetrack again real soon. Appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. Have a good one.
Huge thank you to Corey for being on the show. That was a great time. Always good to catch up with Corey LaJoie. My mom is calling right now. Yeah, I'll call her back in like 10 minutes. She'll be.
Is your mom gonna listen to this show? She's gonna know exactly when you ignored the call.
I hope not. I think I know what she's calling me about. I'll call her back very soon. I told her, I said, Mom, I'm recording with Brennan Poole, Corey LaJoie all morning. I guess she just wants to be on this show. She wants to chat.
Yeah, she wants to say hey.
But now for the final segment of the show, we have a fan question we want to answer. Brennan, I know you picked one out that I think is a pretty decent one to wrap this show up on. Hit me with it.
Okay, so Alex, I don't know how to say your last name. I'm sorry, but 8962, you know who you are. They wanted to know what each of our favorite paint schemes of all time, past or present, doesn't matter. What is our favorite podcast, our favorite scheme of all time? Also, this was taken away from the Stacking Pennies podcast. So Corey, this is a good, this is a good deal.
Nice.
It all comes together. So, yeah, that's a tough one, but I'm gonna let you go first because I have to think about it. That's a difficult question. There's been so many good paint schemes over the years.
Mine's pretty easily. I mean, I'm biased for sure. We had my face on a car, Brennan, that you're very well aware of. But I'm not going to be lame and say this is my favorite paint scheme ever. But I will say the scheme that this is heavily influenced by. I actually have sitting right over here. This scheme was heavily influenced by a car Matt Kenseth drove in 2005, 2006. So you can see a few similarities, especially on the door. I think you can really see the similarities, and kind of on the roof. It's a little bit similar there as well. That was mostly intentional. Kind of the front's a little bit kind of going for the same thing. But Matt Kenseth's 2005, it was the first race I saw in person was in 2005. Kenseth, I think, started on pole because somebody failed inspection. He just bumped up to the front row, led a bunch of laps, finished in the top 5. I don't know. I've always loved his black and yellow cars. He was my favorite driver. That one was sort of the one that got it all started. Just looked really good. I also really love the black door number on the yellow background. Thought about we had a version of this car, Brennan, that was the same, and I don't know, it didn't quite work the same way. I think it's
not a 17, man.
I think it's because the white Out of the Groove logo here, it was going to look too weird if it was just if everything else was black. So that's why we stuck with the white door number. But other than that, these two kind of similar to each other.
Yeah, I think it sounds crazy to say, but Jeff Gordon had a Nicorette car, the car that he wrecked in Vegas and hit the gap, if you remember. I love that car because it was like lime green with the flames all down it. I love that car. Is probably up there as one of my favorite schemes of all time.
That was a cool one. I love that one.
I'm a Jeff Gordon fan. I mean, I liked a lot of his cars. I liked when he went to the Flames. I thought the Flames were cool. And then, I liked Flames for a while. Now I don't know how. Now I'm over my Flame era. But yeah, that Nicorette car, I have it too. The diecast, I have to pull it out one episode. But yeah, I just like the lime green with like the flames, and it just like, man, that car is just like so bright. And I really like cars that have those bright colors to them, kind of like my car from this past weekend. Can I throw that? Say I liked my own car that I drove in Nashville, but yeah, the Nicorette car is probably one of my favorite schemes of all time.
Yeah. I love brightly colored cars that are pretty like immediately recognizable, but aren't too busy that it gets so cluttered up. But I like a fairly simple design. Flames, that's easy to comprehend, easy to wrap your brain around. Black and yellow, pretty simple.
You like the flat black furniture row car with the neon red 78 and
I did say I like brightly colored cars. I mean, that one was just kind of a matte black, but no, in a way, it is still iconic. It is still memorable in a way.
Yeah.
But thank you for that question, Alex. I think that's a good one to end it on. If you have a question or questions that you'd like either Brennan or myself to answer in the next episode of Power Hour, leave them in the comments below. If you're watching here on YouTube, just type it out in a comment, hit enter. We will see it and we will consider it for our next show. But I think that's about going to do it for this one, Brennan. Do you have any final thoughts before we close out?
No, thank you guys for listening. Watch the race this weekend. Pool for the Vanderhagen number 6 car. Remember to bid on my suit at bidonthesuit.com. I think that's what I said, right? Is it?
Yes,
am I right? Is it bid on the suit?
So.
Hold on. Yeah, bidonthesuit.com. Bid on my suit, save the oceans, maybe win a piece of history. I don't know. Check it out. But other than that, yeah, man. Until we talk again next month, guys.
Yep. And speaking of great paint schemes, the Vanderhagen, bright orange, simple, pops, looks great. So, but yes, with that being said, thank you all for listening / watching the latest episode of Out of the Groove Power Hour. We will see you next time. Enjoy Chicago.